Today's topic will be the profane. All of the life is bound together by one common law of love, and love is the self-givingness of spirit. Dr. Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind. Ramon Paniker stated that there is no sacred or profane. In fact, there is nothing that is not sacred, since all of reality is interrelated. Pam Grout stated that judge not means more than refraining from judging others. It also means keeping your consciousness open. And let us affirm together, I am a holy being, just the way I am. And now I will turn this over to Reverend Dr. Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Janet. The mundane, the sacred, and the profane. Oh my. So this month we have looked at the impact of categorizing, or judging is another word for it, things that are mundane, putting them in categories, the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. That is judgment that limits our ability to experience the sacredness in all of life. And also what goes along with that is to accept our differences and our diversity. And ultimately, we are considering how judging things as mundane or profane is related to things like social injustice of all kinds, including the destruction of our environment. So this is a big topic this month. So let's look at the definition of sacred first. It's defined as that which is connected with God, deserving respect, awe, and reverence. So one of our spiritual principles, we have 10 guiding spiritual principles. One of them is oneness. And that means that there is only one reality, one power, one presence, one life, which I call God. Some people call it spirit. Some people call it ultimate reality, or the field of all potentiality and all possibility. Whatever it is in whatever your words are for that presence, that oneness, we therefore are that presence. Everything is that presence. So Mother Earth, all plant life, all animal life, all mineral life, being connected to the one life, or actually expressions of the one life, deserves awe, our wonder, our respect, and our reverence. So you might be thinking, I get that I can experience the sacred in the mundane life, which is what Eugene talked about. Daily activities like washing dishes. I can do that by choosing to be mindful and to bring present moment awareness and just to enjoy and love what I'm doing. I understand how I can bring the sacred there. But how can I find the sacred in the things that I might call the ultimate of profanity, which is violent acts that perpetuate social injustice? How can I see the sacred in that, you might be asking? Well, finding the sacred in the profane, I understand, I get it. It's a tough subject. It's really challenging us in very deep ways because we feel the impact of these things. And yet tough subjects like this are powerful opportunities for us to challenge our concepts, the concepts that limit us, so that we may grow in love, in compassion, in the awareness of the oneness and the interconnection of all life. and therefore be a greater presence, beneficial presence on the planet. So now let's define the profane, and you might guess it's the opposite of the sacred, as according to the dictionary. So it's the secular, the non-religious, things that are considered disrespectful in terms of behavior and language. And again, I think that the operating word is things that we judge to be the opposite of sacred, secular. I'm adding that, by the way, non-religious, or against religious values, or things we may judge to be disrespectful behavior and language. Boy, I've really learned a lot about that over the years. So Ernest Holmes makes it very clear that all life, our bodies, our sexual expression, our humanity, every aspect of us is holy, sacred. We are not profane beings. We are all divine expressions of the one spirit. So the words we use, the clothes we wear, how we style our hair, the way we present ourselves and our values are all part of our unique expression as spiritual beings. So today I encourage you to be willing to open your heart and your mind, to be willing to challenge some of your concepts of what you might be calling profane or offensive or whatever. And start widening your perspective, broadening your perspective to the idea that all life is sacred. Neil Donald Walsh, in Conversations with God, said, "It has been said that if you don't see God in the profane as well as the profound, you're missing half the story." That is a great truth. God is in the sadness and the laughter, in the bitter and the sweet. There is a divine purpose behind everything, and therefore a divine presence in everything. So let's first take a look at profanity and the third commandment. So let's start by the use of profanity and cussing. We'll start there. So as a child, I was taught that cussing was something that you shouldn't do because the third commandment said, don't take the Lord's name in vain. And it went on to say, otherwise you're going to be punished, you're going to be guilty, and so on. So for me, and the way I was taught was that meant no cussing at all, or I will be punished by God. So my idea of cussing has changed. It's not that I do it a whole lot. I still am kind of in that framework that I was brought up in. But my idea about cussing has changed significantly since I began my studies of the metaphysical perspective on reading the scriptures. It's actually my idea of what this scripture means, don't take the Lord's name in vain, has really expanded. Because the metaphysical understanding of the scriptures is that it's all about opening our hearts to love, growing in the consciousness of love, growing in the consciousness of oneness, and being a beneficial presence on the planet. That's the bottom line. Ernest Holmes said the word love, when used to describe the nature of God, can be easily understood by everyone. For we are always responsive to love, rich or poor, religious or non-religious. We know the word and feel an expansion within ourselves when it is used. Believing that God acts through us, then love must act. Believing that God acts through us, then love must act through us. So we are the vehicles, the vessels, the instruments of that divine love. So metaphysics, then, this metaphysical perspective invites us to question how does this verse that I'm reading instruct me in how to be a greater expression of love? Taking the Lord's name in vain, and by the way, the word name metaphysically means nature, in vain, which means with disrespect, means using our entire spiritual nature. That means the creative power of our thought and our word, the creative nature of our actions. It means using our spiritual nature in ways that harm any form of life or disrespect any form of life. So this is not about cussing. This is about something much bigger. Something much bigger. It is, does it create harm? And does it create a vibrational frequency that feels like disrespect? So this is really a demonstration of the spiritual law of giving and receiving, but used kind of in a negative way. What we give out, we get back. If we give out harming behaviors and so on, we get back, we actually harm ourselves because everyone is interconnected. So that's the spiritual law of giving and receiving. And it's not that there's a God out there that's punishing us, but there is a universal law that is operating. So when humans trash the planet, it harms us because of the interconnection of life. There is a woman who wrote a book called The Sacred and the Profane. Her name is Mircea Eliade. She makes this point very powerfully about this idea of the profane and the sacred. She said a sacred stone remains a stone from the profane point of view. Nothing distinguishes it from other stones. But for those to whom a stone reveals itself as sacred, its immediate reality is transmuted into a supernatural reality. In other words, all nature is capable of revealing cosmic, which the word is sacrality, sacredness, everything in nature. Again, it's perspective. It's the perspective that we bring to it, how we use our spiritual nature to perceive and to view things. Also, profanity varies between cultures as well as between individuals. In the science of mind, we say all life is creative. So people create the meanings that they give to things and create the ways that they behave. So we understand that we humans as divine beings have the freedom to create our own story of what is profane and what is sacred. Therefore, here's some examples. Thumbs up is a positive sign in American culture, but if you do that in certain Middle Eastern cultures, it's the same as giving the middle finger. When tipping for services, in this country and other countries, it's considered a very loving act. But if you tip people for services in Japan, they feel disrespected and insulted. Sexuality is taboo in some cultures, while others see it as part of our sacredness. And marijuana, considered counterculture and illegal by some, is gratefully used by others as a healthier alternative to prescription drugs for various ailments. Therapists are now successfully using psychedelic mushrooms, often considered counterculture, to treat depression, things like depression. So as you can see, the profane and the sacred very much can be related to the story that our culture tells us about various things. So let's take a look at profanity and judgment. So another biblical verse that speaks to the negative use of this law of giving and receiving, the law of cause and effect, is judge not or you will be judged. Pam Grout, I love that quote that Janet just read, says judge not means more than refraining from judging others. It also means keeping your consciousness open, keeping your mind and your heart open to other perspectives. So it's hard to keep your consciousness open when you're busy judging others as bad and wrong. When we judge, we're operating from separation consciousness. We're seeing ourselves as separate from others. There's a term called othering that we do when we're in that consciousness. It's a place in which fear, anger, disgust, and hatred are alive and well. So it's equated with the stress response, the reactive mode, the fight or flight. And thus we know this through research, that being in this state is self-harming. And again, the law, universal law, is we get back what we give out. It prevents us from being in creative mode, meaning using the wisdom of the heart and the mind. The way that we do that is to get into a relaxed state. How do we get into a relaxed state? Well, a good place to start is slowing down and deepening the breath. Beginning that way, moving into a deeper state of consciousness beyond the active beta state down into the alpha and the theta, and down into those deeper states of consciousness where the prefrontal cortex comes online and we're able to access wisdom and intelligence in our responses. So getting out of judgment is a great way to do that. Getting into being open to possibilities, opening to seeing things in a different way. In the Course in Miracles, it's stated, there's a statement that you can make when you find yourself in like a judging state is, what's another way of looking at this? We can ask ourselves, what is another way of looking at this that really opens my heart to possibilities? So breathing, meditating, bringing on the relaxation response, and remembering that the divine exists in each and every person, and that means the person that we normally judge. And it helps us to, one of the things that our friend Virgie says a lot, walk by faith and not by sight, to be able to look beyond the appearance and remember that all actions ultimately are either love or a call for love. So when we see someone that we consider is misbehaving or, doing something that we consider wrong, it's important to remember that underneath the deed is the doer, and the doer is a spiritual being worthy of our love. Through spiritual mind treatment, we can bring on that shift of consciousness from what I call judgment into discernment, because we do still want to discern what is ours to do in the situation. So it shifts us into that broader perspective so that when we do make decisions and we do take action, it comes from a higher place. So again, that this form of prayer, spiritual mind treatment, begins with bringing to mind, to the best of our ability, what we see as the nature of God: one life, one source, one presence, one power, one infinite love, a field of all possibility and all potentiality. That life, which therefore must be my life and that person that I was judging. We are the life of God ultimately. And so with that in mind, I claim that I am guided, I am into discerning the highest and best action to take, if there is something for me to take. What is the highest and best, most loving action that I can take? And actually claiming that I am knowing that, I am understanding that right here and right now. I'm being guided. And then I give thanks for this word, knowing this word that I speak is falling into the creative medium of all possibility, no potentiality, the universal law that brings it into manifestation. So I'm releasing it to that law, I'm letting it be, and so it is. So that was just a very short version of spiritual mind treatment, but the key to it is to do the prayer, the treatment, and then listen for guidance, inspired guidance. Move your feet. We say treat and move your feet. So there's two parts. It's not just treating, but actually listening for guidance and taking action. So the Signs of Mind teachings encourage us to seek first ourselves as divine, deserving respect, deserving awe, deserving reverence, regardless of how others may perceive us. When we express ourselves authentically without shame and live our lives out loud, we inspire others to do the same. When we include people from all walks of life in our communities, we are taking the crucial step to create a world that works for all. So this week, my invitation to you is to practice seeing the sacred in people who offend us and to bring more love, acceptance, and understanding to our relationships with people who look, act, and think differently. So this is what I'd like to do. And so my talk is done, but I'm going to be putting us into breakout rooms of around 4 people. And I'm going to be asking you to start this beautiful Thanksgiving week by doing a round robin of giving thanks for all of the amazing ways in which diversity, the multiplicity of the divine, shows up on the planet. So we're going to get ourselves into this really high frequency of Thanksgiving, of giving thanks. And then when the breakouts rooms are done, the service will be over. And people can then gather for the power of 8. So I'm going to go over here now and put us in breakout rooms.